Okay, so I'm on a few minutes early. I wanted to make sure that everybody could see and hear me. John is not here yet. And let's see if I can get my window open. Hopefully. Sure that there we go. Okay, let's see. Hey guys. Okay, so we have Minuteman, Flying VS Farm, Keeping It Dutch, Bandana Grandma, and Brian Philbrook. Hi guys. Oh, okay, Wholesome Roots. So we have a lot of people already here. So maybe I did the live thing right this time. Okay, I don't know, but maybe you have a little backlighting though, so I may want to turn. You guys tell me if I need to turn away from the window so that there's not so much backlighting. John made it. He actually got here on time, and I started.
You're 3 minutes early.
Prematurely.
Right.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull the other one up so we can see it.
What do you mean the other one? Is there another one? Hi, everybody.
There we go. I just want to make sure I could see your face.
Oh, I'm right here.
So we're backlit no matter which way we go.
Right. Good times.
Okay, we're here, and you make me look so tall and statuesque. I'll slow me down to your level, at least. Then I don't look quite so masculine.
Hi.
Okay, so we have lots of comments already, which is so nice.
Hi, Dutch. Okay. Let's see.
So Dutch, I saw that you guys are getting a tiny house. I haven't watched the video, but I saw the thumbnail. Are you guys getting a tiny house, or was it your nephew who was getting a tiny house? Because I remember seeing your other tiny house video where you were just looking at them, and it looked like your nephew was getting married and might be doing a tiny house. So which is it? Okay, so I don't have an itinerary.
Oh, Aardvark's on. Hey, Aardvark.
Hey, Aardvark. Long time no see.
Right. So have you given any?
I haven't done anything. All I did was double check and make sure that
because as we were sitting in the car after we turned it off, all of a sudden the notification came on that you were on. So I'm like, 4:57.
So what we're doing right now is we're going to be doing a series of videos about taking a very, very, very small, almost qualifies as a real tiny house, and trying to get it all cutesied up and make the space feel bigger when you have family with children and dogs. So I think it's going to be really fun. The little house that we're going to be playing with is super cute. And in a cute area where I think we can do some biking with the girls and go for walks with the dogs, and the streets are slow enough that they're safe.
Right. And they're, let's see, it's a little bungalow built in the 1920s, a little one bed, one bath. And so it's just adorable, actually. I'm really excited.
Even just looking at my hair down is driving me crazy.
I see.
Bobby pins.
Right. And Helios is on.
Hey, Helios.
So, let's see.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Let's see. Somebody was asking. Oh, hi, Brian. Brian Philbrook, let's see. Okay, Jeannie Miller. On your way home, are you going to be anywhere Louisville, Kentucky?
We want to go to Kentucky so bad. We have so many people to come see.
Yes. We're going to try and figure out what to do with that.
So we don't know what to do about
Jeannie. If
anything.
You can, yes, Jeannie and anybody else who's watching, if you can email us, dirtpatcheaven@gmail.com, and in that subject line that everyone leaves blank, just put host in there, and we will put pins down on the map and see what we can do and see what we can do. Basically,
the problem is at this point,
a big meetup.
A friend suggested that it might be foolish to start back on another loop of tour when we're here where we are, and that it would probably be wiser just to head home and get another base of operation.
And that, yes,
seems like good advice.
But there may be the possibility that later on, weeks, months, or years later, we come out and have to do it, get to do it again. So.
Well, we have a lot of people we didn't get to visit, especially in the East and the Midwest. Yes. So there will be another leg of the journey, And once we have a home base where we have, because right now we don't have a home base. We're going back to live in sisters and parents and basements until we have school and work and everything figured out. And then once we kind of have resettled for a few months, then we can go out and go to meet everybody else that we wanted to be able to meet. But due to circumstances, we stayed in Florida longer than we had originally planned, where we could have visited everybody else in those 2 months, but it was so cold, it would have been really hard.
It was a lot shorter than I had planned.
Yeah. Okay, so did we get to the bottom of Brad Ferguson? We haven't. It's one of those things where you have to go and flag every single video for copyright infringement, and he has put up hundreds of videos now, and it's hard to get to every single one of them and make the complaint. It would be simpler if somebody with a brain instead of a computer would go and look at the channel and realize that the only videos he has up are mine.
Somebody from YouTube.
Yeah, if somebody, instead of them sending it over to a computer to analyze it, if instead one person went and looked at the channel, they could see that it's my face on every single video, and they could just say, oh, this guy's stealing. And that would fix things, but they don't. There's more red tape than that.
Right. So Dutch just got back. Says, you guys going back home? We are working our way back home. And quick question for you. Did you want to ask him again?
Oh, did you miss it?
Yeah, he walked away while we were asking you a question.
Oh, Dutch, I had this whole long conversation with you about one of your videos. You weren't even there. Okay, so I saw the thumbnail. I haven't watched the video yet. Dutch has the pole barn video that I did that was really neat about how he and his family made up this pole barn, and it's their home for the moment, but he just recently put up a thumbnail about buying a tiny house. And I had seen Dutch's video previously where he was with his nephew looking at a tiny house for them to buy as their first home. And I was wondering if it was Dutch's nephew buying the tiny house, and maybe they were going to take videos of finishing it, or if it was Dutch buying the tiny house. So I was just curious which one it was.
So in the first person, Dutch, did you? Who was it? Let's see. Hi, Tawana. She's on.
Hey, Tawana. So let's see, going back to what our topics were. One fun thing back home is that some of the best goats that I kicked myself for selling. Yes, it's for him, putting it on my line. Okay, so that's cool. I think that's a really neat kind of way to do it, because obviously you have children already. It would be difficult to move them into a tiny house, but for a couple just starting out to buy something like that for $5,000, maybe $7,000, as long as you have somewhere to plunk it, and if you can help him with projects, I would think that that would do really good things for your channel to show how to finish the inside. I would watch that. I would totally watch that. What?
Not that we don't watch your other stuff. We watch your other stuff too.
Oh, thanks for that inference, honey. I'm not sure he took it that way, but right. He did.
I thought it was funny.
I did watch your fried rabbit video recently, and it made me really hungry. Dutch did a back to basics, deep frying of, like over an open fire of fried rabbit, and it just looked really good. Okay, so Lisa said, hello, I've been watching your journey for a while now. How are the girls? What's your next move? The girls are bouncy. I think they'll be doing well in this little tiny house. We brought our bikes with us this whole trip. We haven't used them much.
We haven't used them since New Mexico.
Yeah, we haven't used them.
We toted them back and forth across the U.S. and they're just sitting on a bike rack.
For no reason.
Other than to lower the gas mileage.
Right?
Right.
So these little streets that are where the little house we're going to be living in for a few weeks, those streets are pretty safe. So we'll be going biking. I don't know if most of you guys probably know Esther Emery. She's Fauchomatic. She wrote a book that's called What Falls from the Sky, and she talks about how the internet and all of its accoutrements steal from our lives. And so when we get into this little house, I don't want to set up internet because I can edit without internet, and it would give me the opportunity to get out and get around people when I go to upload them by going to the library, let the kids be at the library, and instead of being in this little hermit shell of internet where you feel like you're talking to real people, but you're not actually getting out and getting sunshine, you're not getting air, it would force us to go out and socialize. So those are my plans right now, is not to hook up internet in the little house. And I mean, because we have internet on our phones, it's not enough to upload a video, but it's enough to just be able to answer emails and that kind of thing. So to all intents and purposes, we would be roughing it while still having enough internet to answer emails.
So,
okay.
Palmetto's on. Hey, Palmetto.
Yeah, Shep for Her said Dutch's videos always make you hungry. They do. He has some really good food videos on there. So
right, Aardvark, no internet blasphemy.
I know, right?
Here.
Okay, so Marine One said, I just started raising butcher hogs and info for beginners. I don't know. I like to raise pigs in the winter because they don't root as much. They will stay in their shelter to stay warm in our area. And so I raise winter pigs, not summer pigs. It gives me exercise during the winter. Deep bed mulching, I really like to do that with pigs. And put them under a tree if you can. Anything else? We save all of our kitchen scraps, and I cook all of the pigs' food on the wood-burning stove in the winter. So for me, doing it in the winter is all-encompassing and easy. I don't have to start my electric stove in order to cook my pigs' food. I can just put it on the wood stove, and it just is easy.
Okie Girl made it on. Hey, Okie Girl, we shot off an email to you. Not sure if you got it. Email us back if you can. Dirtpatcheaven@gmail.com. And anyway, let's see.
And Dutch said, Marine One, I have a video about raising pigs. And then also Dutch raises sheep. And he has a ton of baby lambs right now. So he has lots of really good animal husbandry videos.
Oh, greetings from Pakistan. Can I have a small intro? So we are Dirtpatcheaven, and for 4 years, we had moved out to our homestead and put it, okay, 5 years now. We had lived in our homestead out in rural eastern Idaho, and as we got it done, I got injured and could no longer work where I was, and so we decided to venture off on a cross-country road trip and see what everybody else was doing for permaculture, gardening, homesteading, and it turned out tiny houses as well. Did I miss anything?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a lot of fun.
It's been an adventure.
Yes.
We've done a lot of mixed videos across the country, but all of it has kind of focused back in on growing your own food, self-reliance, staying out of debt, amazing things that people have been doing that are about kind of the back to nature, back to your roots type of lifestyle. Let's see. Chef for Her said, I have a pig birth video if you're interested in that one, Marine One. That's cool. Okay. So, any other?
James Hemrick in Ohio. James, Okie. Everyone's doing a shout out where they are. We're in eastern Oklahoma right now. It's a good time.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
suicide,
I don't think suicide.
A couple times I literally thought we were going to die. So I would think that was pretty accurate.
And I never actually thought.
But you were in the driver's seat. You were in the driver's seat.
I never actually thought we were going to die.
It feels different when you're the one driving.
It got close to that a few times in Colorado, but it never actually did feel like we were going to die. So.
Don't say we. Say I never felt like I was going today.
I was in complete control. So.
Okay, so keeping it Dutch said, my wife is talking about being a minimalist.
No, minimumist.
I'm not sure he meant a minimumist.
It's Dutch.
Are you thinking of living minimally, like in a little house?
Or just decluttering? What are you thinking?
Oh, there's Rebecca. Okay, I think it's kind of sad that it has to be back to basics. Why did we ever walk away from it in the first place?
That's a good point.
My understanding is that it was the World War where women left the home in order to go work in factories, and then when the men came home to be in the workforce, the women didn't necessarily go back home, and a lot of gadgetry, a lot of kitchen gadgetry came on the market to allow women to work and still cook meals. And so when the gadgetry came in, a lot of the retail that we now think of as normal became a thing because the women weren't home enough hours in a day to be doing a lot of sewing and to be doing a lot of cooking and to be doing a lot of canning. Even though our grandmothers still did a lot of canning, I think for the most part, I think that a lot of the gadgetry that came into being kind of made it so that you had so much free time that you just weren't tied to home anymore, unless you weren't doing as much homemaking, and it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Down the dirt road says Oklahoma has the worst roads. They're pretty rough here. I don't know. The driver. There's
Palmetto.
What did it say? Marines don't spell good. Yeah. There's a defining line I have noticed, and it's between Texas, Louisiana, and Ohio and Oklahoma. And right there, you go from the south to the west, and it is.
And then Brian asked, any chance you guys would come to Maine on your travels? I would love to go to Maine.
Yes.
This time we really were focused on making it to the south on our first leg because we were in the middle of winter. But I've always wanted to go and see the farms and the people in the Northeast. And we have a ton of people that we want to go see in the Midwest. I've been to the Midwest before. So it doesn't have quite as much of like the mystery to it because I've worked in the Midwest before, but we have tons of people in the Midwest that we really want to go see. Mm-hmm. I think we've learned a lot on this in these travels that, to all intents and purposes, since we left Florida, we've been staying in Airbnbs that are very inexpensive, and it hasn't cost more than what it would have for us to be.
They're cheaper than hotels.
Yeah, they're cheaper than hotels. They're nice. I'm not scared in them.
Doug and Stacy says us. Okay, somebody had asked if we were coming, if we had been through Ohio. We have not been through Ohio yet. We haven't been to Doug and Stacy's yet. That entire north of the Mason-Dixon line, actually even south of that. Anyway, we haven't come into the Northeast or even the Midwest, really.
Yeah, we haven't made it yet. So, Doug and Stacy are on. We're trying to figure out if we're going to come see them here next week or if we're going to wait a couple weeks until things warm up. John wants to avoid going further north past Doug and Stacy. He wants to come back south a little bit and then head west and then go up. So that's what he would like to do.
So we may have to come over to you and then jet back, and that's okay.
So we are planning this month to be at Doug and Stacy. So make sure to watch for videos of that. It will be super fun.
Oh, Dutch just got another baby. He says, I just got home, have another baby lamb. I'll see you guys later. Hey, have a good night, Dutch, and congratulations. So let's see.
And so for the difference in travel, where previously we were in an RV when we first started, on this leg of the trip heading back home, we have come out to the same amount of money in our traveling by staying at inexpensive Airbnbs as we would have spent driving our RV and being in campgrounds a couple times a week. It's come out to the same amount, and I feel like our health has been better.
Stress levels been
and
lower.
Again, we haven't been afraid because we were in an old RV that we weren't sure how long it would run. So I think when we come back across the Midwest into the Northeast, when we do that, I think we'll have a better parameter, a better understanding of how we want to do it and how to do it safely, and so that it'll be fun. It's interesting. You always have these thoughts about what states will be like and what the travel. No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
You kind of have this preconceived notion about what a state is going to be like and what the traveling is going to be like, and yet as the weather changes outside and you're traveling faster or slower and you have the kids and the dogs, your feelings about your travel change as the weather changes. If you guys are sick, it becomes less fun. So even the best plans as far as traveling can be upset, and it's not predictable.
Rebecca says, I really want to start making videos that are based on living in a historical inspiration, especially sharing some of the antique gadgetry I have.
I saw your pretty dress.
We should,
Rebecca does reenactments where they are in Nevada?
Yes, Nevada. And I say go for it. However, please note the irony of posting that historical inspiration on the internet, because the internet was really bad back then. So I'm just saying.
Okay, so Down the Dirt Road said, how's your property? Our driveway washed out up here in northern Idaho.
Oh, I'm worried
We
about
have a canal that runs right past our property, and to help with the flooding, what they'll do is they'll run water into the dry beds so that the water will go down into the aquifer rather than being across the top of the landscape. And so where in a dry year they won't let water out into the canals, in a wet year they'll let water out into the canals. They have places to send it. So Shelley might flood. Shelley and Goshen have a tendency to flood before we do. And
I think he's talking about just the snowpack melting off. And our driveway hasn't, the gravel on it is really super old, so it's mostly just mud anyway.
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah. How's your property, their driveway washed out? So I was saying generally we are not underwater.
Well, yeah, not underwater, but I worry for our poor renters that because they just have a big van. And I think that the mud will just trench and they'll have ruts that'll be 3 feet deep by the time they're done. And there's Kaya bouncing. Kaya.
Yes, the Palmetto Paratrooper said the internet was called a newspaper and the information in it was just a hit or miss.
Exactly, right?
So true.
Extra, extra.
Rebecca says we refer to our phones as handheld telegraph devices.
Exactly. Telegraph? What happened to the Pony Express? Why aren't we? You're going to be authentic.
Hey, Rhonda. So howdy, coming in late, had to run the oldest grandson to track practice. Sounds like you'll still be on the road when we're in Missouri and Oklahoma.
Cool.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Should our paths cross.
So Down the Dirt Road said, yes, with the 8 to 9 feet of snow this winter and too much rain last fall that froze, we live in a gulch. Oh, that's so rough. You got a lot of washout. Yeah, I think everybody in the north got a pretty generous share of water this year, which is exciting as long as you don't have too much all at the same time.
Doug and Stacey, even the old internet still had clickbait and fake news.
Right.
Amen.
So. K-Doodle said, I'm getting married May 6th and we're beginning our homesteading journey. I'm so excited. Gardening, canning, chickens, rabbits, and possibly 2 dairy goats are our goals for this year. Oh, so that was the other fun thing that I wanted to talk about. So back home, my neighbor has 2 of the milk goats that I sold rather than choosing to purchase. And they are incredible milk goats. They're as good as my best milk goat. And she is moving to Utah within the next few months. And she's holding them for me until we get back, so that if the renter wants them, she will have more than enough milk. But it would mean that I would be able to bring those genetics into my herd, because even if I'm not there to use the milk, I really, really want to hold on to those genetics because they don't exist anymore. It's a line that kind of got shut down by some animal activists. And so they're the last, and I really want to hold on to those genes. So.
Springtime here, 80 degrees today. Congratulations, Brandy. It warmed up here a little bit too. I was in shorts and a sweatshirt. So
Down the Dirt Road said I'm about to do a video on it. Stay tuned. So that would be for the flooding. So make sure to go check out Down the Dirt Road 2016.
James Humerek, where is back home? Southeastern Idaho, in the desert where you can see the mountains, but you still have the sagebrush surrounding you.
Okay. So, okay, where are we going?
K-Doodle, I've been watching you for quite some time. I've learned so much from your content. Thank you, Sam. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so let us know. Palmetto Paratrooper, me too, pointed out often to ones I love. No longer have a cell phone, 7 years now. See, and I was really late to get my cell phone. It took me a long time to get one. And
she upgraded from the flip brick that you text and flip back down.
And now I do have a smartphone, but really the only thing I think that it does that it makes my life easier is that I can do Instagram with it. But other than that, I think I'd rather just check my computer once a day and like go into the library every couple days and check things. I think I'd rather do that than have the phone, except that I use it as a camera occasionally.
Often. Here. Lonesome Dove PK, is homesteading normal in all USAs or just specific areas? I think it's well, it's just a lifestyle, a lot like Tiny House Minimalist, or
it used to mean that it was free land. Originally it was free land given by the government in exchange for you living on the property for a certain number of years. That was originally what homesteading was. Now it's termed as being self-reliant, more like a self-reliant / farming kind of a lifestyle. So Adventurous Aardvark says, I want a fainting goat. I have seen fainting goats, and they're quite the novelty.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, James Humerico, do you hunt the elk over in East Idaho, I'm assuming? There are a lot of, anymore. They have introduced, okay, this is how, sorry, I'm going to try and make this succinct as possible. Back in the early 90s, they reintroduced the Canadian wolves that were never there in the first place. These wolves are like giant dogs that are about 200 to 250 pounds, and they hunt in packs. And so ever since then, the wolf population has exploded, and the moose, deer, elk, antelope, and pretty much all of the big game wildlife has been decimated by it. So now, yes, elk hunting, deer hunting is still a general season. You can get general seasons for everything, but most of the time, yeah, you have to pay the extra, go in for the lottery and draw a tag over there.
So Linda D said, what size is your land? Will you have enough room for your gardening, your animals, and your renters? Yes, we will have plenty of land. We have extra land.
More land
we do intensive gardening. We use a lot of rabbit manure, and I do raised beds. And so with an acre and a half, we have enough. We have 2 greenhouses. And so 1 greenhouse for the renters, 1 greenhouse for us. We have room for plenty of gardens plus grazing left over, just because of the way that I've done it. And still we have 100 fruit trees that are either mature or maturing. So we have plenty of space for both of us. And I think it actually makes it a little easier to have 2 of us on the property, because it's intensive. It produces a lot, and it's hard to keep up with it. Last year, most of what I grew went to the rabbits. So we had a lot of meat rabbits that we raised, and we had ducks that we raised, and deep mulch. And so everything that we were feeding was eating off the land with not a whole lot of input coming in for feed. It worked really well. And yeah, there's plenty for the ranchers and us. The one difference is that with these extra goats that we're getting, that will make 4 milk goats, which generally I have about 4 goats at any time, 2 coming up and 2 that are senior. I will probably have to buy some hay for them, because I don't know, I might not. I like to have extra hay though, in case I want to graze them in a spot that I want more manure. And what I'll do is I'll graze them in one spot and I'll bring them hay, so that there is a lot of manure in that space and a lot of mulch with the hay that I bring in. I do like to do that to improve my pasture. So, you know, it should work really well.
Mm-hmm. Brandy says, huge mug, Mr. Man. This is a remnant of the old lifestyle when the cold mornings I'd get up and go to work in a meat locker on wheels, and Julia would make a big old hot beverage. So thanks again.
Did you already read down the dirt road about the wolves?
Yeah. So you guys don't have a draw up there? That's cool. You had another reason to go up to North Idaho.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else?
I'm not sure.
We are at half an hour. This is when I usually burn out, and I'm like, I don't really have anything else to say.
Yeah. And Dutch has left us.
We could just be rebels and say, okay, we're done.
No. If you all dehydrate your weeds that are edible for them in the summer, you should have enough to feed the animals with minimal supplements.
I have made hay off of my property before, but I don't, because it's a very much a choice. I have the scythe. I have a way to store my own hay, but instead.
And we have done it a couple times.
Yes.
Okay.
And it worked.
And it works.
But instead what I do is I lay my hay and my weeds down a couple times a year onto the pasture, because we are in a desert. And so I even deep mulch my pasture. And what happens is that the weeds and the hay break down and form soil on top of our cobblestones, because our field is made up of cobblestones, not soil. And that's how I have created the pastures that I have, is by chop and dropping all of my beautiful hay and weeds a couple times a year. And so I do not remove nutrition from my land, except in the form of milk and eggs. That's the only way I remove foliage from my ground, is that my goats will graze on it. I'll cut and drop. The goats will graze, the chickens will graze, and then we have food in our house. What I harvest for the goats and for the rabbits that I don't chop and drop is branches from fruit trees, branches from willows, and clippings from the garden. So about 90% of what our rabbits eat is excess produce from the garden and clippings from crabapple trees and that kind of thing. And then we supplement the goat's diet with branches as well. So that's what we do.
Yep. And Brandy, it sounds like Brandy Westrick's got to go. So have a good night, Brandy. Thanks for stopping by.
Aardvark says, are you going to get a goat where you are? I don't know where we would keep a goat. That would be an adventure. We would need a fence to keep dogs out.
We would need a mini micro goat.
Well, it wouldn't have to be micro mini.
Okay.
There's enough space back there, but we'd have to protect them from dogs. And then we'd have to protect the tree a little bit. So I saw a stake out back that's the same kind of stake I've used for my goats at home, because I stake my goats. I don't just let them in the whole pasture. I rotate them. And so in order to do a goat where we are going to be, it would probably need to be staked, and then we'd still have to put in a fence and find hay to buy.
Linda D. I was fascinated by your videos about your hay bale gardening. Can you do that outside your greenhouse?
Yes, and I did. We did strawberries and squash and greens and onions and straw bale in our backyard as well as in the greenhouse. The problem was I had so much growing, I could not harvest it quickly enough, even with the rabbits. And so we had an automatic watering system, and when we came back, everything had kept growing, and yet we had sold the rabbits. And so in the end, the gardens didn't get weedy, they just got ahead of us with the growth. We couldn't eat it all. The renters were still harvesting from our hay bale gardens when we left. And so when a hay bale garden deteriorates, you just put it into your raised beds as mulch and as part of your layering system, like a lasagna garden. I don't know what we're going to do without rabbits when we get back, because that's how I create my raised straw bale beds.
Gonna get rabbits. What do you feed your goats in the winter if you don't buy hay?
I do buy hay.
Mm-hmm. Actually. Yep. You pick up about 2 tons at least, because it's just so cheap right now. You pick it up in the cheap time of year.
Let's see. Rebecca said we are attempting willow here this year. It'll be interesting to see if we can get it to be successful. I like willow. One of the reasons I planted mine was to give texture to the backyard. It was the sun was coming down and hitting the white siding on our house, and then the yellow straw, and so the heat was just bouncing back and forth. The heat was just bouncing back and forth and frying everything in the backyard. And so I put up the willow fence to add shade and texture and to just make it nicer to look at, but also to have a starting bed to be able to then spread out and have more hedges and food forest spaces for other plants. And so even though it's really pretty and I love my living fence, it also feeds the rabbits, and I love living fences. They're wonderful. Down the dirt road said, are your kids missing their friends? They're missing their granny and their grandma and cousins and
neighbors around the corner.
No, I think they miss family more than anything. I think that's really who they're missing.
Mainly as grannies.
Tanya said, thank you for making inspiring videos and sharing your wisdom. Thank you. That is what we aim for. Okay, Linda D said, definitely do new videos about hay bales so I can learn. I will have to ask our host if he is willing to help us find some straw bales and some rabbit manure, and maybe we could do a garden that way.
Right.
It's definitely easier than trying to put it in the ground and fight weeds. But I have failed when I've done it with chemical fertilizer. It has to be rabbit manure in my experience.
James Humerick's on his way out. Thanks for stopping by, sir. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey,
That's
Gaddy,
what our
next.
kids would say. So, hey, Gaddy Anton, here I are. That's funny. So,
I think we're good.
we got 20
Half
minutes.
an hour is good.
So, anybody?
No, we're done.
Oh,
So I love you guys.
she's going to abandon
Half an
us.
hour is my happy point in which I don't feel like I'm rambling and oversharing. So Linda D said, could you use composted manure? I wonder. The reason I like the rabbit manure is because you have the bacteria, you have the rabbit manure tea. Every time you water that bale, it heats it up and gives it more bacteria. And there's enough nitrogen in the rabbit manure that it will feed your plants really well. If it's composted manure, you won't get the same heat in the bale and it won't start to decompose as well. So we will talk to you later, and thanks for popping in.
Thanks, guys.
And we appreciate your support. So we'll talk to you later. If I can figure out how to turn it off. Sometimes I really struggle with that.
Well, you could close that window. Totally.